The social media is dunking on Nate Silver, and I am all there for it. So now, the reason that Twitter is taking Silver to task is because of Nate's insistence of letting Donald Trump have at least one good day. Well, good is pretty subjective, but let me give you the tweet here anyway. He said, "It's really amazing how many libs can't even permit Trump to have one good day. Nobody will remember this stuff by Tuesday after U.S. forces kill perhaps the world's most wanted terrorist." So, no, this happened, of course, after President Trump announced the death of Abdul al Baghdadi, who was the leader of ISIS. So, look, this kind of reminds me a lot about when the U.S. killed bin Laden. Did that stop terrorism? No, because endless war essentially brings endless terror. And so when you point that out, that Trump has not actually stopped terrorism and has actually encouraged it by continuing to bomb the Middle East, by continuing President Obama's wars, drone strikes, signature strikes, and all the things that you shouldn't do when you have a war on terror, which involves having a war on terror, which by nature is completely unwinnable. Yeah, you're going to have a problem. And people are going to have a problem because the American people are basically tired of endless war. And so now, after this, we go to the Twitter dunking. So now, let's start with Kimberly Johnson, who said, "I thought I'd wake up to a great day. Instead, I see Joe NBC defending white supremacist president, Facebook letting Ben Shapiro do what I was kicked off for doing, which I'm not exactly sure, but Ben Shapiro has been essentially calling for a civil war. And so, right, that's disastrous. And Nate Silver lecturing us what we should let Trump have one good day, or that we should let Trump have one good day. Common theme: privileged white men. Well, I'm not saying that she's wrong about that. Of course, you've got Donald Trump having the most privilege out of anyone. Uh, Morning Joe, same thing, and Ben Shapiro, of course. But let me add in, this is really privileged right wing men. You have something called right wing privilege, even though, of course, they claim that they're victims all the time, which is hilarious. But Patrick Blanchfield continues with this by saying, quote, "Nate Silver's trajectory from stats wonder kid to sneering meme lord perfectly captures the libidinal dynamics of technocratic malice in the era of neoliberal decline. Don't at me." Not bad. Not bad at all. Palmer Report says, "Yep, the libs aren't being fair to the guy who's holding kids in cages, keeps conspiring with foreign nations against the U.S., is running sham criminal prosecutions of his enemies, and has sexually assaulted dozens of women. My statistical model says Nate Silver is unfollowed." Oh, that's good. All right. John Roy says, "Another great side effect of the chant triggered idiots like Nate Silver and exposed their bias by not opposing the chant itself, but by their use of trigger words like libs. Nobody cool uses that term to refer to liberals, and worse yet it wasn't just liberals booing." So that's important. There are actual conservatives out there that don't actually like what Donald Trump's doing. Unfortunately, they're kind of a minority. And here's the thing: when you actually expose certain people, whether it be conservatives or independents, right, to what Donald Trump actually says and what Donald Trump actually does, and if they are actually sincere in their conservative beliefs and they trust sources, and that's what's really important, is that they actually trust facts and not what just the president says, then they're deeply disturbed by what President Trump has been doing. And that's how you end up getting polls where you have 50 to 51% of Americans, which include a small but yet consistent number of conservatives, that are saying we should impeach and remove this president. Because again, if you had a president like, for example, Barack Obama, or if we had President Hillary Clinton doing the same thing with Ukraine, and of course that's why there is the, but look at Biden, look at what they're doing. Well, Biden hasn't been found guilty of any crimes. Hunter Biden hasn't been guilty of any other crimes, or of any crimes. Um, and of course, for engaging in what we call institutional corruption or systemic corruption, which is corruption, and they would be correct for going after that on the pretext of corruption, but we know that's not really what that's about. It is about going after your political enemies. When you do that, you don't really have a leg to stand on. Okay. But conservatives, if you were an actual principled conservative, and there are actually some that are left, and we've seen them. We've seen Justin Amash. We've seen several others call this out and say, look, we actually do believe in the Constitution. And there's this thing in the Constitution called the Emoluments Clause. And so we're kind of particular about people breaking the Emoluments Clause and doing quid pro quo deals in order to basically enhance my own political chances in the next election. We have problems with that. And so they're right to point out that there actually might be people in the audience that are conservative that are not in favor of what President Trump is doing and that are willing to actually take a stand against it. So that's important. Matthew says, why can't you libs just let the guy running the child internment camps have his moment in the sun? Touche. Touche. Dave Schelling says, Nate Silver begging for him to get one good day is like asking me to have sympathy for a guy who broke into my house and peed on my floor. It's more of an apt comparison than I'm comfortable to admit, but yes. And Michael Pilasek says, imagine being upset that Donald Trump had to hear a bad sound. Now, in case you're wondering what that sound is, it is the sound of people not only booing, but also saying this. Yeah, I mean, imagine having to hear that sound. Oh, right. You could go to any Trump rally in 2016 and hear lock her up about Hillary Clinton. And the only difference, of course, is that Donald Trump has actually been accused of real crimes. Whereas a lot of what Hillary Clinton, went through is essentially, look, I hate to say it, but kind of a witch hunt. As Hillary Clinton actually didn't commit real crime. So, okay. Anyway, so there's more here. 2 more tweets. Actually, Reign of April says Nate Silver is getting ratioed into oblivion because of this tweet. Remember when many, including me, regarded him as a go-to regarding political polling, thoughts and prayers, or whatever? Yeah, I do remember when Nate Silver was a numbers guy. And ever since 2016, he's gotten progressively unhinged. And so that's the problem. Again, speaking of progressive, right? He's taken every opportunity to minimize, for example, the polling of Bernie Sanders. So, and also minimize minority support of Bernie Sanders. And so that's important context as well. Because Nate Silver isn't just paying attention to the numbers now. He's now playing political pundit. And he's not very good at it. And so let me get one more tweet here. This is from Lorraine, who said, Trump being soundly booed by a packed stadium and the world realizing what a hack Nate Silver is. Emoji, happy face. Thank you, Twitter, for taking my mind off California being on fire. Well, I mean, I guess anything he can do to help. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.